Good evening. It is evening here in the UK. It's 8 o'clock. It's Wednesday night. It is the 24th of November, 2021. And this is Golden Nugget Nation's Q&A. And I did receive a query this week. The concept of gratitude was requested. Gary, could you speak on gratitude, why it's important in being an entrepreneur and developing a business? On the surface, that seems like a very simple question, but in reality, it's a very complex one. And I think it's also quite timely because in North America, in the United States, tomorrow is their Thanksgiving Day. Canada has already had their Thanksgiving Day last month in October. But what's unique about the American Thanksgiving Day is that the people who are identified as the Pilgrims, a religious sect that left England, went to Netherlands, came back to England, and then came to the Americas for quote unquote religious freedom, came to the United States aboard a small sailing vessel known as the Mayflower. A rough voyage, a voyage that had one berth on that, and the girl's name was Oceanus Hopkins. Now that name does mean something to me because the family that my mother was raised in claim to be descendants of that line, which I think is great. Now, how they get to that, I don't understand. I've just heard the story that Oceanus Hopkins is in the family line, the only surviving child born on the Mayflower. There were other children. I just want to make sure that this is the one that was born on the Mayflower coming across. So being out in the Atlantic Ocean under a British flag, I guess she's British citizen. But nonetheless, Oceanus, she's really not a relative of mine. She's just the family that raised my mother. So what about this event? Let's be really factual. They were undocumented individuals who arrived in a new country that was covered by native people. They came there. They basically took land, built themselves a place to live, didn't know how to farm the land. The techniques of farming in Europe did not quite work there. The soil was different. The area had been highly forested for a long time. And the Native American tribes came in and taught them various techniques, various things. And I'm not so sure it was always a peaceful relationship with them. And their first winter, they virtually starved to death. It was really horrendous. There had already been a settlement earlier in the United States called Jamestown, but that town did not last. And the argument oftentimes is which town, Plymouth or Jamestown, actually had the first Thanksgiving. I don't know of any record where that occurred in Jamestown, but in 1621, the first Thanksgiving was held. And the people in North America, from that point forward, annually always had a Thanksgiving festival. It wasn't really set in time to a day or specific time of month, etc. It was always after the harvest was in, until the Civil War. About 1863, after the Battle of Gettysburg, And before the end of the war, Abraham Lincoln pronounced that there should be a national day of Thanksgiving and proclaimed that the fourth Thursday in November would be that day, and that everyone should focus on that for which they are grateful. And it's held ever since. So it's 400 years. This is the 400th anniversary tomorrow of Thanksgiving for people in the United States. It predates the country of the United States. At that time, England had a very small stake in the United States. Spain had a larger portion. France had a huge portion. Canada was French. New York was Dutch. What you call New York City now is New Amsterdam back then. So, you know, everything was up in turmoil. It was very regional. But the Pilgrims, because they were so grateful that they had a bounteous harvest, they were not going to starve another winter. The tradition holds that they invited the native tribes to come and join with them. And what's interesting is the British brought with them geese. Now, when you have a roast or celebration back then of great magnitude, you would usually roast a geese, but the geese were rare. They weren't a whole lot of them, and they wanted to keep them alive for the most part. So they weren't on the menu, so to speak. But the local turkeys that grew and lived wild were brought in. Now, tradition says the Indians brought them. I don't know what's true. I don't know whether it was a joint hunting party to get them or what. But the turkey, which was really not what you think of today, it was kind of a rough, stringy meat, was brought, and they had all that they could put together, all the food from, let's just call it's a potluck dinner. The natives brought things, the Pilgrims brought things, they had prayers and psalms, they had religious services, and they talked about their gratitude that they had been preserved and that they continue to live. And from that day to this, at least in the United States, they've had that celebration. I know that Canada has a Thanksgiving Day. I've heard people tell me that in various locations that they grew up around the world, that they had something similar to Thanksgiving Day. It may have been called a harvest day, but it was always a day of gratitude, a great day of gratitude for the bounty of the land, a great day of gratitude for what they had, etc. In business, it's the same thing. You start off with a thought, just an idea, and you need to romance that thing to bring it to fruition. If it's a good thought, if it's a valid thought, and that romancing, it's just like dating, trying to figure out whether you want to stick with that thought or not. And so people are romancing that thought. And along the way, you start to feel gratitude for the thought. And as you start to develop a vision of where that thought is going to take you, how it's going to look, how it's going to happen and occur, you begin to start having gratitude for what you see in the vision about what you will have, what you will see, how it will be. And as you begin to express that gratitude, the law of attraction is starting to kick in now, because you attract more of what you're grateful for, more of what you're speaking about, more of the direction you want to go, how it will be. We had a wonderful interview a few months ago with Andrea Branigan on this Golden Nuggets episode, where she talked about the process of starting to think about buying an automobile, and then the time frame for it, how much she was going to pay for it, what vehicles there were out there, narrowing it down to a specific model, what color she wanted, what interior she wanted, what kind of wheels she wanted on the car, air conditioning, windows, electric seat warmer, all those things. She had everything down to detail. And then she went to several dealers who said, no, don't have that, but we can sell you this. Well, she didn't want that. She had a vision of what she wanted. She had a vision of what she'd pay for it. She sent out a lot of emails. People were saying, well, we have that car, but not at the price you want to buy it. You're going to pay us more. Until somebody in the town of Bountiful, what an interesting term, Bountiful, name of a town in Utah. I know it exists. I've actually driven through it in my life a few times, but Bountiful exists. And she went to a car dealership in Bountiful because they wrote to her and said, the car you're asking for just came on our lot today. It's everything you asked for except for one thing. It is the model above, so it's an upgrade. And we will sell it to you for the price that you're asking for. But you have to come in X amount of time to seal the deal. And of course, it takes time to get financing arranged. Andrea had been in Japan for many, many years, multiple decades, running a business, had just relocated to the United States, needed a co-signer. And at that point where this deal is being brought up, her sister is visiting. Her sister says, well, happy co-sign for you. So the co-signing is taken care of. The financing is taken care of. She gets the deal. It's exactly what she wants. She actually gets a slightly better car, being that she got the upgrade, but she got everything that she wanted in the car, everything the way she wanted it. She didn't compromise on anything. And that's how that law of gratitude and the law of attraction work together, because she was already grateful for that car long before she got it. She knew it was her car. She did not accept any other offer, she wanted that car at that price. And she was grateful for it. She knew that it would be created and brought into her stream of consciousness where to find it. And she did. So let's go back to the gratitude part, because in ancient literature, it doesn't matter what you look into, like the Bible. It doesn't matter if you're looking into things like the Quran or the Upanishads or the I Ching, the teachings of the Tao, on and on. It doesn't really matter. There's a concept in there that basically says, when you lose gratitude, when you don't have gratitude, that which you have is taken away from you. Now, they can call that karma. They can call that a lot of different things. But it's like universal law. The things that you don't appreciate, the things that you don't express gratitude for, you will lose. The things that you express gratitude for, the things you don't have, but you say that that is what you want, that you're working towards, that you're moving towards, and you have a vision of, you will attract. It will become yours. So the things that you currently have, be grateful for them. Now, a question always comes back to me, well, Gary, I've just got like 10 challenges that are just beyond my scope right now, and I'm working like a mad person trying to get through them all, and you're telling me to be grateful. Well, yes. Let's go to basics. How is your health? If your health is good, be grateful for it. You know, how do you have a roof over your head? Well, yeah, I do. I might be losing. Well, quit thinking about losing it. Just be grateful you have a roof over your head. Be really grateful for it. Do you have food? Have you eaten today? There are a lot of people who didn't, and they wanted to. Be grateful for what you have. Be grateful for the relationships you have. People who may not even agree with you, but they're there for you. Be grateful for them. Be grateful for everything you have. Do you have money in the bank? Even if it's only, a pound, a dollar, a euro, 100 yen. Do you got money in the bank? Be grateful. Thank the universe for the abundance that you have. And that's all that you really need to be doing. Just be grateful. Do you have a pair of shoes? I have seen homeless people on the streets of London who have shoes that are nothing but duct tape holding it together. What would they give for one set of your shoes that you have? Take care of what you have. If you have real gratitude, then be a good steward of what you have. If you have a house with a yard, take care of that yard in gratitude. Make it a place of beauty. If you have a home, clean it, organize it. Throw out what you don't need, don't want, have worn out, but keep it in good repair. Keep it in cleanliness. Have it always ready that somebody could come into the house. It doesn't have to be spotless, but they could always come in the house and you would never be embarrassed. I have been warmly welcomed in the jungles of South America into huts with dirt floors that had been swept absolutely clean. They were absolutely clean. I used to joke about being, Native American kid. We started off with a house, and my mother would sweep the dirt floor every day. And by the time I came back from college, we had a basement. But the truth of the matter is, keep your house clean, neat. Be grateful for what you have. Because having that gratitude is what will grant you more. Have that vision of what more is. Gratitude is the key. You didn't starve last winter, at least for food. I know people who starved over the last 2 years at times for just human communication, physical contact with someone else. There are people today who are starving for that still. And maybe they don't get it because they never expressed gratitude for when they had that opportunity or when it was there. I read a beautiful letter today that was posted by a friend in a different group that I belong to. And I highly recommend this group. It's called Gratitude, Inspiration, and Happiness Group. Try to find it, get yourself in there, because there's all kinds of really wonderful, inspirational things. And it helps me to keep gratitude in the foremost part of my mind all the time. It's one of the benefits of this group. But the letter was from a woman who was in what I would only assume to be a nursing home, a home for old people. And somebody sent her a radio. And she talked about how for 20 years, she's had enough money to pay the cost of being in this home. But there are many, many hours during the day where she's alone. And she had no window to the world. And she talked about how some people in the nursing home had radios, But they would turn them off when she came into the room. And now she had her own radio. And she was so grateful for this radio because it gave her an opening to see the world. Now, there are people who are probably listening to me right now that have cable television in their homes, or they have satellite TV and they have over 100 channels, and they flick through them and say, I can't find anything to watch. Why don't you express gratitude that you have better things to do than watch television? You know, just keep it grateful. Be grateful that you have the option of going through 100+ channels to find something to watch when you want to watch something. But you're probably wasting too much time if you're flicking through channels and saying, oh, there's nothing worth watching. And then you keep flicking. Forget that. Go be a productive individual. You're an entrepreneur. You need to be busy. You need to be doing good. You need to be manifesting. You need to be creating in your mind. You are a creator. You were designed to create. You were designed to win. Be grateful for that. Every time you have a challenge, you have a setback, be grateful for it, because there's an opportunity there. There are seeds that will teach you how to get the success you're seeking. Be grateful for them. Even if you don't see the seeds right now, be grateful for the lesson that you're being taught. Be grateful that you're learning what the lesson is. Be grateful for the people around you who are succeeding. I recall years and years and years ago, there was this guy who was walking with me, and he was trying to be an entrepreneur, and I thought he was kind of on the crazy side of life, because really, the thing was, you need to get a good education, you need to get a good job, you need to get hired by a company and have a career path, etc. That was my way of doing things back then. His way was, he was going to have his own business. He was trying to develop something. Anyways, we're driving down the road, and we see a guy going past us in a Jaguar, which in the part of North America I was in was really rare. And this was a brand new Jaguar. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a stretched one. And this guy's driving it, and he has his wife in it and maybe 2 kids in the back seat, and they're driving down the road. And my friend says, you see that car, Gary? I said, yeah. He says, I want one of those. I am so happy to see that guy with that car. I just want to cheer him on because he has one. I can have one. And I thought, this guy is nuts. But I just kept going on because I kept thinking, like, he's always coming to me asking if, Gary, can I borrow a couple bucks? I need to buy a hamburger. I'm kind of hungry and I just don't have any pocket change. So he was kind of like a ne'er-do-well, in my opinion, at the time. Well, clock moves forward, time moves forward. 10 years later, I just happened to be coming back through the town, and people are saying, hey, do you remember this guy? I go, yeah. And they said, man, you should see his house. It's paid for. Really? What's he driving? Oh, man, he's got a Jaguar. He's got a Rolls Royce, and he's got 2 Mercedes Benzes in his driveway all the time. And he says that there's no such thing as the perfect vehicle. You have to have a selection of them. He also has 2 pickup trucks, one with dualies and the other not. And I was there like, you got to be kidding. This guy, really? What happened? Well, he was going after this business idea. Yeah. And he kept not doing it. And suddenly he got an idea that he just needed to tweak it a different way. And when he did, it was like overnight, he was rich. But you see, be grateful, because he was grateful this other guy had the car he wanted. He was grateful about that. He said, because he has it, I know I can have one too. That was his attitude. Do not be jealous. Do not have envy. Do not have any of those negative qualities crossing through your mind. Be positive, be grateful, be happy, be joyful, pursue happiness. That is like a God-given right to you. Life is yours. That was a gift. Liberty. Nobody can take your liberty away from you. You just have to surrender it. And happiness. Happiness is a choice. Once you have that choice, it is yours. It cannot be taken away from you. I used to love to watch Kung Fu. And I remember when these Kung Fu monks, Shaolin monks, would be incarcerated. And they say, we're taking away your freedom. He says, you can't do that. What do you mean? We're going to put you in this cell. But I'm already free. You can put me in a cell, but I'm still free. There's lessons in this. So that's my answer. Gratitude in business is a decision you make that no matter what comes your way, you are grateful for it. Even if at the moment it seems like a struggle, and be grateful for the struggle and the challenge. I don't know how many medical doctors from North America where, oftentimes it's all scholarships, or you're paying the cost, or you're taking out straight loans, where I've talked to medical doctors who 10, 15 years after they have gotten through and they've gotten most of their loans paid for, and they were making money now, and they had the nice house and the nice cars, and they had all the things that were the perks that doctors had, who would tell me about eating beans out of a can and maybe only eating half the can in the morning and having the second half in the afternoon. And that was all they could afford. And saying, when I was a student struggling to get through medical school, taking the classes, doing my homework, maybe working a side job or two, and constantly studying and reading, and maybe only getting 3-4 hours of sleep every night. That was the happiest period of my life. I was so grateful the whole time for anything. So I remember this person bought me a cup of coffee one day on the street. I was just like in the shop, and the guy just said to the person, he says, my friend who I've just been talking to, and he said, we had just a 2-minute conversation. I didn't even tell him much about myself other than I was with the university. He says this young scholar next to me, he says, his coffee's on me. So whatever he wants, I'm buying for him. He said, I was so grateful. I was so grateful for that, because that meant I could keep $1 in my pocket for a little longer. I just wanted something warm to drink. It was so cold in Boston when I was there at Harvard. I was so hungry, so cold. And this man bought me a coffee. Be grateful. Little things. Not the big things. Be grateful for all the little things. And then the big things will automatically fall into your gratitude scope. Be grateful for everything. And as an entrepreneur, you will begin to attract more of what you're grateful for. So that's my answer to the question about gratitude. To my friends in America, the United States of America, and all of its territories and trusts. Tomorrow is your Thanksgiving. I wish you a warm and wonderful day of Thanksgiving and gratitude. And with that, I will close this session of our Q&A for Golden Nugget Nation. We'll be back next week. It will be I believe it will be the first day of December. Can you believe how fast this year is going? Thank you so much.